Hey, welcome to the Day with Kay. My name is Kayla, and whether you are new or returning, I'm so glad you decided to click on this video. Today's chat, I believe, is so absolutely important, especially for the time that we're living in right now. And before I begin this chat, I want to clarify, this video is for any Christian parent, mom, dad, auntie, uncle, friend, cousin, anyone with any close proximity to our youth of today. And if you are not a Christian, by all means, please continue to watch this if you feel called to watch it or you feel like I just want to hear what she has to say. I just ask that you watch it with an open heart and an open mind. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started in our chat of guarding the hearts and minds of our kids. I strongly, without a shadow of a doubt, believe that Jesus is God. He came to earth, he died for our sins, and is now seated at the right hand of the Father, preparing a place for those who he has called, for those who love him, his body, his church. Now, with that, I also believe that we have a real enemy, and his name is Satan. God tells us that the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. Unfortunately, the world and the culture we live in currently has desensitized itself so much that the thought of Satan is no more than a joke or a myth. We have shows like Lucifer, which try to humanize him and build sympathy towards him. Halloween, which tries to desensitize the whole spiritual realm to where it's really just something to fun, to engage in, and to laugh about and have fun in, when this is so real. I believe that the enemy has really done a great job in this culture, unfortunately, in influencing people to believe that he's not real, to actually doubt his existence. And when we have a culture, a society that believes that he's not real, when we don't realize that there's somebody out there seeking our destruction, seeking our ill will, why in the world would we have our guard up, right? When you feel safe, why would you feel the need to guard yourself? If you take nothing else from this video, I want you just to know that God is real and he is seated in heavenly places, and the enemy is real and he roams this earth just seeking to destroy, to kill, and to steal. And he does not discriminate. He does not only go after adults or only after this specific culture or this specific race. He is going after this entire world. Our kids are the most vulnerable. It is so important as adults that we are guarding the hearts and minds of our children until they are able to do so on their own. The Bible even tells us, above all else, guard your hearts, for it is the wellspring of life. So with that being said, number one is to first acknowledge that we have an enemy, but more importantly, acknowledge that God is real and he is our good shepherd. From the moment our kids are born, the enemy is really seeking their destruction. I can remember as a child where there were things that I can look back on like, wow, like God, you were really protecting me, because that was crazy. That was danger. That was the enemy really coming for me. And I see it even now in my kids' life, where the enemy wants to attack their character, attack confidence, attack friendships. And it is so important to know and to acknowledge that we have to be on guard against the enemy, but even more so to know that there is a God who loves them, who cares for them, even more than you do. What I did from the moment that I dedicated my children in a formal setting at church, but I also did it after reading Samuel, the first book of Samuel and the second book of Samuel. In 1 Samuel, we meet Hannah and her husband, and Hannah goes into the church and she is barren. She can't have children, and she wants to have children so bad. And Eli sees her. He thinks that she's drunk because she's praying, but she's not praying out loud. And she's like, no, don't regard me that way. I'm just praying, And Eli basically says, I don't want to say it wrong, so let me actually find it. Okay, so I am in the book, 1 Samuel, chapter 1 is where the birth of Samuel is. And so Hannah was praying in her heart and her lips were moving, but her voice was not heard. Eli thought she was drunk and said to her, how long will you keep on getting drunk? Get rid of your wine. Like, dang, dude, I can't just pray. And she says, not so, my lord, Hannah replied. I am a woman who is deeply troubled. I have not been drinking wine or beer. I was pouring out my soul to the Lord. Do not take your servant for a wicked woman. I have been praying here out of my great anguish and grief. Eli answered, go in peace, and may the God of Israel grant you what you have asked him. She said, "May your servant find favor in your eyes." Then she went her way and ate something, and her face was no longer downcast. Okay, and so after that, she does give birth to Samuel, and she says that she even names him Samuel because I asked the Lord for him. And later in the chapter, starting at verse 25, she goes back to give a sacrifice, and then she also brings Samuel back to the Lord because she said that she would give him back to the Lord. And this is what she says: "As surely as you live, my Lord, I am the woman who stood here beside you praying to the Lord. I pray for this child, and the Lord has granted me what I asked for him, or asked of him. So now I give him to the Lord. For his whole life he will be given over to the Lord." And he worshiped the Lord there. So, and as you continue reading on through Samuel, you'll see how God really used Samuel in like mighty ways. And honestly, this woman's prayer, her like just her heart after seeking God and giving her child back to God after being barren, after not being able to have children for so long, and she finally has a son, and she gives her firstborn back to God. Wow, she gives her firstborn back to God. I read that story in that book and did a Bible study on it. I will also leave the pastor that I love to listen to whenever I break down Bible books. That's my dog. Whenever I break down Bible books, I love to. I'm gonna check on it. Okay, so whenever I break down Bible stories, I love to listen to this pastor. He really brings insight into the culture, insight into scripture, and helps you understand certain customs that were back then in the culture that we don't do now, or we don't know about now because we don't have to do them anymore. So anyways, I will leave that pastor below. His church is called, I believe it's First Calvary Ontario Chapel. It's like 4 words. I'll leave it below. Love that pastor. Anyways, the book of Samuel really helped me to see that each of your kids are really a gift from God, an answered prayer. Even if you didn't plan for them, they are gifts. And so you have to give them back to the Lord. You have to say, this is your child. And that's what I prayed over my kids after I read this Bible book. So I think it's awesome when you do it in the church, when you're dedicating your child in the church, but it should be something that's you're constantly doing. You're constantly praying over your child. Random times it'll just come in my mind like, Lord, this is your child. You love them more than me. You care about them more than me. You formed them. I pray that you use them for your kingdom, not for destruction, Lord. And I would just pray this, and I would say, this is your child and you are their God. And so I think it is so important to guard their hearts by praying for them. One thing I can honestly say without a shadow of a doubt is that I am still living out some of my grandma's prayers, some of my mom's prayers. And my grandma is no longer on this side of heaven, but I know without a shadow of a doubt, like even though she has passed, God is still fulfilling some of the prayers that she has prayed over my life, over my siblings and my mom. And so start praying for your kids now. If you're not, pray for them, pray over them, pray with them, and watch God just take care of them and really show up and show out. As soon as you mention the name of Jesus, the enemy will flee. He has to. Number 2. It's so important to know that, yes, you have an enemy, but what are his schemes, right? You have to know, how does the enemy work? What type of things does he do? How does he go about trying to destroy us, trying to kill us, trying to steal things? The Apostle Paul writes in 2 Corinthians, he writes to the Corinth church telling them about being watchful for false teachers. And he says, "And no wonder, for if Satan disguises himself as an angel of light, so it is no surprise if his servants also disguise themselves as servants of righteousness. Their end will correspond to their deeds." Basically, just know that the enemy disguises himself. He will not come out and say, "Hey, I'm the devil. I'm here to steal, kill, destroy you." He is going to go about it in a way where it's tempting, where it tempts the things that you already desire. It's so important to know that the enemy's schemes and how he's going to come for your kids. So one way to go about this, I believe, is to be so diligent in vetting everything our kids are exposed to. Yes, I mean everything. From the movies, shows, music, people, places, even the books that they are reading. Yes, even the books. And yes, this might take time, but it is so important. I can think back to my childhood where my mom I would ask to go over somebody's house and she's like, I don't know who they are. I need to talk to them. I need to meet them first. And as a kid, that would be so embarrassing. But it was embarrassing, honestly, because a lot of my friends' parents didn't do that. Some of my friends' parents did. And so with those friends, it was like, oh, okay, yeah, my mom just wants to talk to your mom, or my mom wants to meet your mom. Nonetheless, as an adult, I so see how that was showing her love for me. That was showing her protection over me. She wouldn't just allow me to be around any and everybody. And nobody should allow their kid to be around any and everybody, because any and everybody does not have the best interest for your kids. Thankfully, my kids are too young to be at anybody's house by themselves, so we don't have to worry about that, but we definitely do vet everything else. If it's movies that aren't necessarily catered to kids, maybe a Marvel movie, we'll watch it first and see, okay, is there anything like in there that might be something we need to talk to them about before they watch it, or something that it's just not something they should be watching. Even the books that they read, I don't read every single book they read, but I do read the background. I might skim through it to see what is this talking about. Just the other day, I wanted to pick out a book for them. The graphics looked so cool. It looked awesome. But then when I opened it up, it just didn't align with what we believe and what we want to teach our kids. And so I think even in that, you have to be diligent in knowing what your kids are exposed to, because yes, it could look like a kids TV show, but in it's absolutely not. It could look like a kid's book, but they are teaching them things that don't align with what you want your kids to learn. Maybe it's just not developmentally appropriate, or maybe it's just not aligned with what you believe and what you want your kids to believe. And so I just think it's so important to definitely be diligent about what you expose your kids to, what you allow them to watch, what you allow them to listen to, who you allow them to be around. Other things that we are currently doing, we have decided that they will not be having any sleepovers. The only piece of people that they'll be sleeping over with are grandparents. And if we can build any like really, really close friendships where we are really close with the parents, and then the kids are close, and in those cases, yes. But other than that, sleepovers are a no-go. Absolutely not. It's just not going to happen. I want to jump back to the movies and shows situation. I also use a tool on Focus on the Family. I will leave that linked below. It is a great tool, especially if there are new movies out where you want to go as a family first. I always check the site, and the site has a phenomenal breakdown of what the movie entails, what's in it, spiritual, negative elements, positive elements, language. It just breaks it all the way down for you, so you can understand, well, is this something that I can talk to them about first, or is this something that is just a no, we're not doing this? So I will leave that tool below as well. Also, we made the mistake early on of censoring almost everything from them, and we had to realize that that's not healthy, because they're not going to live in this bubble for the rest of their life. They are going to be exposed to the world, and we have to find that balance of what things should we be speaking to them about right now, and what things can we hold off for a little bit. Because again, my oldest is 8, my youngest is 3. My 3-year-old has no need to be learning about any sex, anything like that. I don't care what this world says. So those things, no. But for my 8-year-old, I know that he will be exposed, because I know that my parents, like, no shame to them, just grew up in a different time, but I knew about sex probably at the age of 7. And I learned it from the world. I learned it from shows, movies, and I do not want my kids to learn it from anything besides me, their dad, and the Bible. So that is what I'm trying to teach them, and that's what I want to make sure. So as they get older, I will tell them more and more. And it's not just about sex, it's about anything. Whenever we do say no to a movie, we don't tell them, no, we're not watching that, and don't tell them why. We will explain, no, we're not watching this because they are making it seem like this is good. They seem like this is a bad, when it's not. And so we'll explain it. So I've been trying to make sure that your kids are guarded in what they're exposed to. Is maybe at times when you feel that it's appropriate, to explain to them why you're saying no. Like, we no longer do Halloween. We had to explain to them, and it's hard for them to get, but we had to explain, and eventually they'll understand, and they'll get it, you know? Other practical tips for guarding their heart and minds to what they're exposed to is we don't have TVs in their room. It helps us make sure that they're not just watching anything. These commercials are crazy. We don't even have cable, but the commercials be crazy. Number two, when they are on games, like on iPads, tablets, I have an older cell phone. They are in family rooms, living rooms. They are never like in the room by themselves, just huddle up under the bed doing like on an iPad. No, I don't want that to come off like we're just like helicopter, we're like on top of them, because we're not. It's just that they're just out. We're like, somebody's on the couch, somebody might be on at the table, someone's in the kitchen. We're not sitting on top of them, but they are in a community area. And on top of that, they really don't go after things like that. But just in case it pops up or something, we can hear it, we can see it, we can maneuver around it, right? And finally, number three, they do not have phones. My 8-year-old continues to ask for a phone day after day, but I didn't get a phone until I was going into 7th grade. How old are you in 7th grade? 12, 13, I think. My kids will come home and say, this second grader in my class or this first grader has a phone. And I'm like, oh, well, I don't care because you don't need one. So there's that. Let's move on. Number three, you want to be great ambassadors of Christ. If you are claiming Jesus Christ as your Lord, as your Savior, you cannot just use those words and not understand that your actions have as much weight as your words. It is so important that what we say matches what we do, and what we do matches what we say, because our kids are such sponges. Kids are watching everything. They watch what you say, how you say it, your frustration, how you handle frustration, how you handle anger, how you handle when plans change. They watch how you talk to your spouse, how you deal with your spouse. They see how you love one another, how you love strangers. They see how you pass a homeless person on the street, or if you sit down and talk to them or give them some cash. They watch how you handle business, how you handle money. They watch what you watch. They hear the things that you listen to. They are observing everything you are doing. And if you don't want your kids to do something, then you shouldn't be doing it. Honestly. Obviously take that with a grain of salt. There's some things adults can do that kids can't do. But in front of them, if you don't want them doing something, then do not show them how to do that. Don't show them that my dad does something, so that means I can do it. And maybe I can't do it at this age, but when I grow up, I'm going to do that. Also know that even if it is something small, you have no control over what your kids will internalize. There are things and moments in my childhood where I can look back and say, I have no idea why that is stuck in my mind, but it is. And I remember random things that people would say to me. So just know that you have no control over what people remember, what people internalize. So every situation, every moment you have with your kid, make it something that just be intentional. Just be intentional with what you do and what you say, because you don't know what's going to hinder them, hurt them, and then what things can build them up later, where they can look back and say, my dad was always kind. My dad said this to me and he didn't even know how much that meant to me, but it means the world to me. Or my mom said this and I held on to that and I'm still holding on to that because it means the world to me, that she believes in me, that she said this about me. Be great ambassadors. Realize that you are the first Christians. You might be the first Christians. I don't know. Maybe your kids are bringing you to Christ, but you might be the first Christians that your kids will ever see, ever know, or just that they know at all right now. And so are you claiming Jesus Christ on Sundays and walking it out the rest of the week? Or are you just claiming him on Sundays and then acting a total different way? Because however you act will hinder them or uplift them and bring them to the faith and help them in their walk in the faith. That's another way to guard the hearts and minds of our kids. So some practical tips for this one is to admit when you're wrong or when you have sinned. I think it's so important because kids need to realize, like, we are not perfect people. We are human beings too. What I struggled with for a long time was saying I'm sorry. To be honest, I just never heard it, but I hear it maybe more often now from my parents, but as a kid, no. And so it was something it's hard to do. And especially as a Christian, you are basically telling God all the time, Lord, I'm sorry, forgive me. If they can't see a human being doing it or hear it for the first time from their parents, it might be harder to realize when they're wrong and repentant to God. Hey, so I realized I didn't give a very thorough list on this practical tips, so I wanted to add in a couple of more that we are currently doing at the moment. This is not an exhaustive list, but these are some ideas and tips or tricks that you can also implement when you're around your kids. Okay, finally, number 4. I feel like this is like the most obvious one, but not everybody does it. So number 4 is spend time with your kids. Spend time with your kids, people. I just think, like, how do you know what to guard them against if you don't know what they're battling, right? If you don't know what they like, what they dislike, what their fears are, what they're confident in, if you don't know what their needs are, what their insecurities are, right? If you don't know what they're struggling with and what they're doing well in, how will you be able to guard their heart and their mind if you don't even know them? That's something that I have to do, that I'm doing more and more often, is just sitting down with my kids, just talking to them, listening to whatever they're engaged in, whatever they're excited about, whatever they're nervous about or sad about, asking them about their day at school, and really be intentional about like listening, like what are they saying to you, and dig deeper. For all 3 of my kids, I just want to be intentional with the time I spend and doing things that they like, and talking to them, seeing what they like and what they don't like, just spending genuine time with them. And I think a part of that is also creating a space that exudes love, that exudes patience, compassion for one another, because then the more you show those things, fruits of the Spirit, then they're going to want to come to you more often and be honest with you about their struggles, and be honest with you about what they're going through or what they're excited about. And they're going to look to you for support. They're going to look to you for guidance, and they're going to look to you for help, especially if you already have that atmosphere. They're going to come to you. Spend time with your kid, build that bond, especially at a young age, because it'll just trickle through. My kids, again, they're not teenagers, but I want to build such a relationship with them now that by the time they are teenagers, they're not running to their friends all the time for advice, but maybe they, here and there, they will come to me like, I actually respect my mom's opinion. I want to know what she thinks about this. And so they'll come to me. So I'm trying to create this atmosphere now to where it's already there when we get to those years. Those are my 4 things that I'm currently doing in this moment to guard the hearts and minds of my kids. And I just wanted to share those with you as well. Whatever you took from this, I pray that it was helpful, it was insightful. This culture is really, really attacking our kids. It's attacking their minds, their identity, attacking their physical, their spiritual, their mental. It's like this world, the enemy is coming full force for the kids, and it makes me so nervous. And I'm not scared, but I'm just prayerful for this next generation and what it's going to look like. And I pray that there is a revival, that this generation will just move closer to God than ever before. It takes parents who are intentional about guarding their hearts and the minds of their kids now, because the way that we train them now, they will not depart from it. They will stick to it, even if they go for a moment, like, oh, I want to see what the world has. They'll know, like, the world is nothing compared to what God has for me. It's nothing compared to the love of a father who loves me, who's with me. And so they will return. So moral of the story, be intentional about guarding the hearts and the minds of our kids, whether you're a teacher, whether you are a parent, whether you're a friend, whether you're a cousin, an auntie, whoever you are. Be intentional about praying for your kids, being on guard about what they're exposed to, and then being great ambassadors, exemplifying, being great role models for them. And then finally, just spending quality time with them, getting to know them, getting to know their wants, their desires, their plans, their goals, their dislikes, their fears, whatever have you, really getting to know them more and more. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. It was kind of long. I really am trying to use my channel more and more often to speak whatever God is speaking to me in the moment. And lately I've just been seeing too much craziness in what these kids are getting into. And I just think it's important as adults that we are guarding their hearts and their minds. Again, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you're looking for another video on my channel that maybe is talking about God, then I have a couple on my channel right now. They are right here, how God led me to stay home, and then also how God gave us this brand new car. All right. Thank y'all for watching. Bye.